Furious Driving, presented by Diamond Bright, keeping the Furious fleet shining, and you can protect, clean and care for your car with 10% off site-wide using code FD10. Bidding Classics, the online marketplace for appreciating classic cars, with more cars added every week. And like Diamond Bright, Lancaster Insurance Services is a company I've been a happy customer of for quite some time. Lancaster are one of the biggest specialist insurers in the UK, covering all areas of vintage to modern classic car and motorbike. So give them a call and see if you can save on your cover. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving. Operation Save Hippo begins today. Last time we saw this car a few days ago, it had just failed its MOT on some rather nasty rot on the inner sill, which is not a great thing to find because unlike all the fun, friendly rot, which is so much more fun to weld up above the car, welding underneath the car is a whole world of less fun to do. Being upside down, being splattered on by the welder. Ooh, so much fun. Looking forward to this quite a lot. It's not the end of the world, it's quite a big hole, but it's not the end of the world because it's on a square box section. A lot of people did actually message me saying, have I seen these repair sills that you can get off eBay and various other places? But the thing is though, it's all the outer section you can buy as a repair panel. The inner section is basically box. So I went on the internet, in fact no I didn't go on the internet, I went to an actual shop and bought this. This is, I think is 1mm or just over 1mm thick gauge steel, which happens to have a lip pressed into it, which is just the right kind of size for the little lip on the bottom of there, which certainly makes life a little bit easier when it comes to tacking this on. So this hopefully won't be too hard to cut out because we've got this lip already present, the flat box section on the bottom, a 90-degree turn up just here, cut it to length, well do that first, and then we've got ourselves a fairly easy box to just weld in. So fingers crossed this will not be too hard of a thing to do. I really hope. I've left it to the absolute last day for my free retest. I think it's today that I've got to drop it back up to the garage, or possibly Monday, because that'll be the final day of a free retest, because every day's been so bitterly cold. Even today it says it's 9 degrees, but it does not feel like 9 degrees. It feels like -9 with the wind whipping through. It's horrible. But every day so far it's been either raining horribly or bitterly cold ice on the car. Just no way. I'd rather pay for a second retest in a few weeks time. But today it looks almost okay. I've got 3 layers on my bottom half, I've got 4 layers on my top. I'm about to go and put some overalls on and a big coat, then we'll get underneath this thing. Now I don't like these ramps, and the last time I used them it didn't end well. You might recall this. Okay, just looking where the ramp shot through and bashed this, and that's one way of finding out you've got a rusty bit of sill in there, because that is all crusted off. It was solid beginning of the year, it's not solid anymore. But this is 4-wheel drive, so it should go up a little bit more easily, and it'll mean I've not got the jack and the stands in the way of where I need to be welding, because that's basically where I need to be welding. There we go, we're up, we're supported, we're safe, we can get underneath the thing now. Right, now quick PSA here. I don't always remember to say this in the videos, but you must always do it in real life. Make sure you disconnect the battery before you pick up your welding torch. Or you might have an unintentional fireworks show going off under the bonnet. Okay, so what we need to do is cut out from about here all the way to about here, where the whole lot is kind of crusty, not looking too clever. So I'll probably cut along here and then see how weak it is at this point. So yeah, there's quite a lot of metal coming out of there. Scary, really. Okay, so that is the first chunk of rotten metal removed with a very hot edge on it. Oh man, that's rotten inside as well. Oh jeez. So this, I guess that's the jacking point just there. Oh, let's keep going back in that case then. Right, okay, so now good old cardboard aided design. I've been in this with the wire brush to try and get as much of the rust off as possible. And yeah, so we'll get in there. I don't know how I'm going to get the torch in because it's really tight shape. Cut this out, transfer this shape to the metal. So that needs to be, I don't know if it was originally a box section, it's been bent by jacking the car up, or if it's always been a kind of a curved shape. Either way, it's not like it's meant to be at the moment. So, oops, don't blow away, everything's blowing away. This really is a whole extra level of repair that I've found I've had to do. I was not anticipating this. I knew I had to do the big outer section, and I knew that there was a couple of spots on the outer sill also that so it needed attention. I just did not know I needed to be going into the inside sill as well, which is not a lot of fun. I must get a metal bender at some point because I seem to be welding everything all the time. The only thing I really enjoy about the Mondeo and the Beetle is that, you know, touch wood. So far I've not found anything to weld on those two. Well, the Mondeo I won't find anymore. Kind of hoping I won't find anything on the Beetle. I really do need to get an actual metal bending thing. Right, so I've got the inner part put inside there, so I need to get underneath the car again and yeah, make it all be part of the car. Hopefully it won't be too hard. Wish me luck. Oh, it's turned cold, it's so uncomfortable. Oh, gloves, hey gloves. Now last time I did some welding, I put some brand new really nice socks on and I got a whole bunch of weld splatter that went up my ankle and ruined my new socks. So I'm hoping not to have a repeat of that today. Oh. Okay, so I now have an inner section of the sill which feels, you know, broadly strong. It's a lot of weld piled in there to try and find some metal to weld to. So what I'll do now is I'll get the wire brush on the grinder again, clean up all around here, and then once it's cleaned up I'll spray some rust proofing under seal inside the sill area so we can then plate, well, be protected from a little bit of rust anyway, and then go and blast on a big chunk of heavy duty steel on the outside. Yay, fun. Can't see a bloody thing with the last one. So this is MDS Rust Neutralising Primer, the same company that does the Bulldog. Also does this incredible rust neutralising primer, which is great for very rusty and unpleasant situations, such as this one. I do need to get inside that other bit as well, but I'll figure that out later. This is actually really uncomfortable, so I've made myself a little pillow out of some gloves and a brick of wood so I can rest my head while I'm working. This makes it a little bit less uncomfortable. Well, this has taken about 6 hours, but at least it's solid now. It's not pretty, but it is solid and it is rust proof. Now we can move on to the two little outer spots we found at last. Right, let's give us a wee grind back, see what it looks like on both of these two things. One. Okay. So we have got a little hole just there, which isn't too bad, and we've got a slightly bigger hole there, which on their own, if it was just that, would have been like an hour or two's worth of work. Okay, a couple of neat little holes there. It's not quite a oblong exactly, it's kind of a wonky oblong. Best I can describe that. Second to last, the penultimate zippity-doo-dah time. Right, now this is the last bit. This is actually the final bit. Is the first bit that we saw. This is the MOT fail, this little patch underneath here. It's all misted up and I can't see now. Oh, I can't see a blooming thing. That's messy. Okay, well, we are basically done for the day. We've got the big patch underneath it. We've got the little patches front and rear. I've wire brushed with the twisted wire knot thing down here. There's any other bubbles along the bottom of that edge. And I've splattered a whole bunch of rust-proofing primer, underneath here, where I could see bare metal. So hopefully it's now all going to be okay for the MOT. Once it's dry, what time? I think it's a bit late to get it around to the MOT station today. So last night, as I was packing this away, I was just having a bit of a Jez and Super Hands moment. What was the bad thing? There was a bad thing. What was the bad thing? The bad thing was that CV boot, the metal band that holds the CV boot onto the wheel, that had broken. I'd forgotten all about that, but don't worry. Many people on the comments did say you can use cable ties, so I am. I do kind of feel like I have to over-explain things a bit, otherwise I'll be answering the same comments many times over and over again for the next week. I've kind of done the best seam welding, or many spots to make a seam welding around that huge repair panel as I can. The rebate on the bottom doesn't come all the way flush to the bottom of the pinch weld, so I've put a bead along the bottom of that. I could have done plug welding, but I might even go back and do a couple. I've not yet done the under sealing or the filling the channel with wax oil, which I will do before anyone comments I need to do that, because I know I need to do that. But before I do that, I'm just going to go over it one more time when I'm not in a hurry to get it back to the MOT station, and have a really good look over it and see anything else I think I would like to improve, and then make those improvements before it all goes back together with lots of black gooey paint over it. So what I'm taking off here is this circlip, whatever you call it, that goes around the band that holds the CV boot on, because that has split, it's rusted through. So it's going to get a screwdriver in a second. My hands are too greasy to do this. Pry that off and then give it a good clean up. I've even gone and bought some new boot grease so I can load back up inside there. Yeah, that had actually rotted through. Normally it's the rubber that goes, not the metal. Let's give it all a good clean up. Yeah, anything with CV boots and boot grease, you 1000% want gloves on. Thing is, I was going to ask the garage to do it. In fact, I did mention to the garage about doing it, but they didn't when it fell quite so badly on the rust. Well, it wasn't that bad on the rail, but they kind of had an inkling it was going to be bad, because I guess they've seen these things before. Yeah, the thing I had, my issue was, where do you buy one? Because normally you buy those bands with the gaiter, the boot, in a kit. You don't generally buy the metal band on its own, as it's not the part that fails. And probably Amazon, I guess. Okay, this is going to be the horrible bit. I'll quickly show you this. What I'm going to do is get the grease, scoop a load of my fingers in there, and then boop it back on there. Right, this stuff is just horrible. Is there any way to describe it? If you own a dog, this is a bit like when you have to go to the park and pick up after them. Oh, thank you to my lovely Mrs. Furious wife, who's just brought a nice cup of tea out in the discount MG Rover Spares mug. This isn't the right car for that particular mug, but it's a nice big one, so you do get a lovely cup of tea in it. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of doing a cable tie on this before, because these are much stronger than... Oh, there's goop everywhere. Much stronger than the metal ties. They last pretty much forever. I realised I'd slipped with the goop, and they can be made to be very, very tight indeed. Let's give that a little tighten up with some pliers just to pull it tight. There we go, and snip it off with some side cutters. And to be extra safe, we'll put a second one on there. That should outlast any old steel one, which would have, again, rotted off. I'm sure this is actually still some goop on there. I'm sure this is actually outlast the gaiter I'm tying it around. Cool. Jobs. Let's put the wheel on, take it around for the tree test. The other thing that was mentioned on the MOT was that there was misting on these shocks, and I've had a quick look around. Shock absorbers aren't too expensive on these things, so I guess we'll give it a full set of new shocks, and while we're in there, I might give it a lift kit, 30mm lift kit. Would be quite fun on this, wouldn't it? New set of tyres too, because I mentioned that one of the back ones was starting to crack, and they're all the same age, so the others won't be far behind. Continental do a really nice set of tyres that would fit this, with a very similar kind of chunky pattern. Oh, and the final thing, when I was talking about the little alloy wheel nut things, I said 20mm. You were right, it's 22mm. I was even looking at things saying 20 when I was looking at 22. I don't know why. Well, good news, I'm at the wheel of the Freelander, which means Hippo has passed his MOT. Hooray! Doesn't mean we're in the clear though, there's still a ton more to do because it's the longest advisory list I've had in, well, quite a long time. As for going back to the welding, first of all, it's done, but because it was so cold and so uncomfortable, it's not my prettiest welding ever, and I would quite like to actually go back and get underneath the car again and go over it one more time and put like a neater weld over the joint that I've already done. And for that reason, I've not yet wax oiled it, and I've not yet filled the cavities with wax as well, which is the other thing I need to do to it. The other thing is, a lot of people said in the comments, have I taken the plastic trim off the passenger side to look at that side? And the answer is no, because if I find it, I've got to fix it. And if I've got to fix it, I don't want it with a deadline of 2 weeks to get back to my free retest. I want to do that at my leisure. We won't do any big road trips in this car until we've had a bit more of a look at it. Obviously, the advisory list has not got any shorter. I'll still need to do the front shocks. They mentioned that when I picked the car up, obviously. And if I'm going to do the front shocks, I might as well stick a lift kit in it. As we've no longer got a pristine, unmodified car, because I've just modified the chassis, might as well go and stick some fun stuff in there. So a lift kit would certainly be quite fun, and then a snorkel as well, if I can find one. The other advisory, as I mentioned, of course, was the tyres. The back one was showing signs of age, and they're all exactly the same age. They were fitted at the same time, which means that all 4 of them are going to need changing, so I'll look at getting all 4 tyres changed. And they have added 2 new advisories to that list as well, which is that the offside suspension mounting points are obscured by underseal, and that I guess is because I've taken the plastic cladding off, and where I could see there was surface rust on there, I've blattered it all in the Bulldog BDX brand rust killing primer, which is like a red oxide stuff, which means that you couldn't see it before, now you can, and I think it's a good thing though, because I've dealt with it, I've rust killed it, so when I go back to underseal it properly, it's already had a coat of rust killing or rust neutralisation happening already. So yeah, we're kind of there. I do need to take that passenger side off and have an investigation and see where we stand. I'm hoping it's not going to be like this driver's side, because this would be the second car, like the Mercedes W123, where normally the passenger side is the one that's always in the gutter with the salt and the rocks and the dirt. But both this car and the Mercedes, well, touching wood on this one, have had the worst driver's side for some reason. W123, absolutely rotten as a pear on the driver's side, seems relatively okay on the passenger side, no idea why. And of course, the other remaining thing that I've got to sort out with this car, I don't know if you can hear it or not, is that noise. And I don't know, might even just be the tyres. The tyres have always been very loud. I forget what brand they are. We'll stop and have a look in a second at the outside of the car. Maybe though, as they've gotten older and they've started to get harder, that's the noise I'm hearing. It kind of goes away above 40 miles an hour. I'm doing about 35 at the moment in traffic, and you can hear it quite strongly. And also I've tried driving along, knock it into neutral, and the noise doesn't go away, which means it's either brakes, wheel bearings or axles rather than drivetrain or engine. So it's gone quiet now, it's just gone over 40 and it's gone quiet. Interesting. Right, let's have a quick look at this car and see what we think of it. Cool, right. So, dear old Hippo is back on the road, but not out of the woods. We've got a few jobs to get this car looking and running as well as it needs to be, but it is still a popular part of the fleet. Our proper little baby 4-wheel drive just needs a little bit more care and attention. The problem is with this car is it has been used as an everyday dog car by the last 3 owners, who've just used, abused, but cared for it, thankfully. The last owner, before one, spent an absolute fortune on this thing, getting all of the viscous coupling, the transfer box, all that kind of stuff done, which is a monumentally expensive problem with these cars. And the fact that's been done, that alone makes it worth saving. And the fact we've got a few happy memories with this car as well now. Looking back now, I haven't done a bit of research, the fact this little outer sill is slightly kinked up does mean that it had rust in it. That is a dead giveaway, unfortunately, on these cars. If I'd been more observant, I would have maybe checked into that. but the problem is a lot of cars do dent there when you jack them anyway. So it's a shame we found that. The fact we have found it is, I guess, good, because that inner structure was completely gone. We've replaced it. The outer structure is there. It's not pretty, but definitely stronger than what was there. Hippo lives again. We do like this car. This is a great little car, and it's so much fun, and the weather is starting to turn, so we want to be getting back out with the roof tent back on this thing again very soon indeed. Incidentally, if you're wondering where we are, this is St Andrews Lake in Kent, which is like a real nice water sports stop. You can do open water swimming, kayaking, you can rent those pedalo flamingo things, all kinds of stuff. They do scuba diving and stuff here as well. They've sunk a caravan and a truck and a plane, I think, down there in there as well. It's really deep. It's as deep as English Channel in the centre. It's an ex-quarry. So anyway, there you go. Freelander, living again, needs lots of money spending on it. Looking at how much tread is left on these tyres, these BF Goodrich all-terrains are just fantastic. Maybe I need to do a few days of off-roading to get them a money's worth out of them before we trade them off, because they are some proper tyres, aren't they? So yeah, new shocks, new tyres. Check that side out, because I don't want this side to be rusty as well. Oh God, I hope the side isn't rusty. Interestingly, this side hasn't got the same paint bubbles that the driver's side did, and I'm hoping this means it's not got the same rust underneath it as well. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Hippo's resurrection from an unexpected disaster. Well, at least we're back on the road again. Hippo rides again. We'll keep on making him better. You know the drill. Like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you again very soon.